Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing some more vintage NBA logos. Got some good responses from my TikTok, so I appreciate any of y'all that have come over to here. If not, that's cool too. Welcome to the channel. Just going to be doing about 8 to 9 different vintage logos for the Knicks. When I say vintage, I'm going to do more or less like the kinds of graphics you might see on like a vintage t-shirt from the 80s or 90s. I think the Heat logos, I went a little bit more into the 60s kind of vintage that you might see on Pinterest if you look up like vintage logos. And while I like that, it does have its limitations as a style, and I just have a lot of fun doing the other ones as well. So I'm not going to shy away from any style in particular, just doing any kind of retro fun types of designs. So hopefully you enjoy it, and let's go on ahead and get started. So one thing I did a little differently than the Miami Heat logos was that I actually went on ahead and sketched some ideas beforehand. A lot of these logos, like the previous ones, are going to be font based, so those I didn't get into as much, but there's some like this first one that are more illustrative, and I took the time to kind of flesh those concepts out, so the actual process you see is a bit more together and it's not as much all over the place. This one, I saw a couple alternate versions of the Knicks logo. Whether they were fan made or not, I'm not sure. I don't think they were real brandings, but they looked pretty cool, of city skyline kind of making up part of the basketball. And so I thought of this idea of taking a building or a skyscraper and kind of having the lines of the basketball turn into that building. And so that's what I'm doing here. And I'm splitting it up kind of down the middle so that we can get this like 3D look to it where half the building is in shadow. And just to add a little bit as well, I tried to make this little K here that I'm going to stick on the side. I think originally I tried to think about putting maybe windows in the building, but it was one of those things where it got way too detailed, and if you looked at it from afar, you couldn't even tell, like it just looked really bad. That's one thing I would give as some advice, is not to go too detailed when it comes to your logo work, because a lot of times you're not going to know, especially if it's for a client, where the logo is going to be used. And so if you can't see the logo and read all of the different shapes from a far distance, then the logo is too detailed. So yeah, I think that one is a pretty good one to start on. And I continued here with just a basic, NYK. I think I did a letter K. It's fun to just do some basic letter work, and I'm just making sure all the spacing is right so nothing overlaps, and getting a little 3D look on this one. So this one was really easy. It was a nice little refresher because that first one took me like 15 minutes. So getting to knock out a couple of them is pretty nice as well. And I used this basketball shape quite a lot. I like how it came out the first time, so I just decided to keep using it. And I don't know if it's something I'm going to keep doing with other logos, but I figured since the Knicks logo actually has a basketball in it, that I should just take advantage of that and use it while it's on brand. So that's what I'm doing here. Just taking a basketball and giving it some like motion lines, but in like a wavy, not too serious kind of style, and then slapping it on top of some text. But it turns out I had two different concepts for this, and one of them had it over New York and then the other one had it over NY. And it turns out the New York text just didn't fit very well with the motion lines, and I wanted to keep the motion lines. So this is me painstakingly trying to align those to make sure it still looks pretty good. Now this one was fun. This was almost like an 80s style. I'd say this is the one that's the least on brand with the Knicks, but this was me exploring with just fun typography and coming with some wackier, less balanced shapes. I'm not really focusing on making the width and everything perfect, but I'm just eyeballing it to the best of my ability. And I think all the letters work really well together, except the S. You can see I'm like finagling it or whatever a little bit, just because it doesn't fit in as perfectly as all the other letters do with each other. But I still think it turned out pretty good, and I just add Knicks, basketball to the bottom, just to add a little bit more, get the letter spacing all good. And I think I go back to that one as well and experiment with that a little bit with the 3D effect, but I don't want to overdo it. So here's another custom type that I'm doing. A lot of times when I do custom type, I'll try to base it off of a font, but this time I was just trying to be as experimental as possible. And this one, I was going to have the idea of writing out the word Knicks, and then the I wasn't going to be there, and it was instead going to be a basketball net, and then the ball itself was going to be the dot of the I. But as you can see here, I'm going to run into a little bit of a problem and create basically the word knocks. It doesn't, the net itself was pretty hard to try and create. And so I'm here trying to get all the spacings right, and I try to experiment with different thicknesses and stuff like that for the netting, but I do want to keep the line weight consistent, so I'm pretty sure I just scrap all of this entirely. But it's important to flesh out your ideas and give them multiple options, because if you don't, you might get stuck on your first original idea and then kind of get blinded by that and not make anything better when there could have been a better solution. But this right here is the solution I end up with. So I make the net part itself smaller, and then I keep the rim the same width as the rest of the letters, and then I hit it with a little mismatch of color. I think I just ended up making it all one color, and then, oh no, that's what I did. I forgot. I added an outline. I think that turned out pretty good, for at least for what it started as. And then here I go trying to make some 3D effects. I think I was trying to get a little 80s with it, and just add a solid shadow behind. But the problem I kept running into was that there were certain lines on the design, since it was all so mismatched and nothing was really parallel, where the shading just didn't look good. So I decided to scrap that idea. And then I come in here and make this letter K for Knicks, and then I decide to take the negative space in between and create the letters in Y. Just going for a little bit different of a style with thinner outlines than the other designs. I want to have some variety with these. It's fun to kind of think about this as like an entire brand project and think like all of these logos will be used in the same brand package, but at the end of the day, it's all for fun anyway. So while I liked that design, I realized the NY wasn't going to fit in the 3D shape, so I just tried something else, like what if it fit inside of a square? And then I realized, what's the point of adding the square? So I got rid of it, kept the orange K, and just decided to move on. Lastly, I think this is the last logo. I wanted to just do a plain old text one, found a really nice compact font, and then I went to work. I just got rid of the dot on the I, and I wanted to keep everything really tight knit, kind of do something with the Knicks basketball, just adding the basketball part back in. And so this was where I was going to come in and add a little bit more 3D text to the project and add the basketball part underneath. So yeah, I had some trouble trying to figure out what angle is going to work best so that the basketball text doesn't get completely warped. And so I decided to redo the shape. And I also experiment with maybe creating a 3D look for the text on top and just getting rid of the basketball shape entirely. But I decided to get rid of that. So yeah, that is all of the logos. I am trying to get all of these in different color schemes, but sometimes it can be a little bit hard, especially with this one, because obviously the basketball is going to be orange. So on different backgrounds, sometimes it'll be difficult to get every single color looking right, but I think I made some good compromises. So that's going to do it for me for today. I hope you enjoyed all the logos. Let me know if you had a favorite. If you liked the video, subscribe. I'm going to be doing some more of these if you guys keep enjoying them. And I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So I'd really appreciate it if you helped me out. And share this video with a friend if you think they would enjoy it. You got any Knicks fans on your Twitter feed or something like that, share the video. It wouldn't hurt anybody either. So at the end of the day, just hope you have a great rest of your day and take care.